Hello, this is Riley McManus from the World Football News Network, and today I have on a man who needs no introduction to U.S. men's national team and MLS fans. It is the Armchair Analyst, Matthew Doyle. How are you?
I'm doing okay, man. I don't know if I'm as big a deal as all that. I think introduction is kind of necessary, but regardless, it's nice to be here. Nice to be on the show.
So my first customary question for you is, how did you come to love soccer? Because you are an American, and here in the United States, soccer isn't pushed. So how did you find the game and fall in love with it?
And for me, it was the 1990 World Cup. I hadn't played the game growing up. There were a lot of people in the part of Connecticut where I grew up who did play soccer, but it was mostly a baseball and basketball town. And then, when I was 12, 13 years old, the World Cup, which I had never really followed before, was on TV, and obviously I fell in love with it, and part of it was the game itself, but part of it was also that the U.S. were prohibitive underdogs, and I liked the idea of coming in and seeing, as a fan, seeing something that could grow over the span of years and decades, and quarter century later now, more than that. That's still the thing that has me roped in. I had more fun rooting for the shitty 1990 U.S. men's soccer team than I did rooting for the Dream Team 2 years later in Barcelona. So, to give you an idea of my mindset and how I got roped in.
I got you. And many of us Americans, we watch the World Cup and we just get so wrapped up in the coverage and storylines and, the underdog nations that we fall in love with the game. That's how I fell in love in 2014 when the U.S. made it to the round of 16, but just barely lost to Belgium. The World Cup does amazing things for the sport.
It does. And that's why I think the threat and the fear of missing the World Cup in 2018, it kind of forced Sunil's hand with getting rid of Jurgen, which, obviously I think was the right move.
Yeah. All right, moving on to what you do for a living and what I hope to do for a living. Talk about Major League Soccer. Obviously, the big news for today is Jermaine Jones officially signing for the LA Galaxy. In your eyes, what does he bring to that midfield?
Energy. First and foremost, when he's healthy, he's the most spectacular and relentless midfield athlete I think this league has ever seen. I don't think that was the big thing missing for the Galaxy last year, but it'll be the big thing that they have when he's on the field this year. So I think that go look at the first 20 minutes, 25 minutes of the second leg of Colorado's loss to Seattle in the Western Conference Finals. Obviously, Jones couldn't keep it up for the whole, for the duration of the game. But that first 25 minutes, it was like he had taken the field and shrunk it by more than 50%. And he made guys like Ozzy Alonso and Christian Roldan and a few other big name, big time players look slow and ordinary. And I think that's what the Galaxy have now. Whether it's what they need and whether it can propel them back to where they think they should be, that's much more of an open question.
So he kind of brings the veteran leadership you need for a squad, of course, with Robbie Keane and Steven Gerrard and guys like that departing the Galaxy. I'm
not sure. I think that he brings leadership. He brings inspiration, but if you want to talk about what he does in the locker room, I think it's probably a little bit different than what most would term to be leadership. So.
And that's a fair point, because he has had his moments with the U.S., as we saw in the Gold Cup and the Copa America. He's not the calmest when it comes to situations that he is involved in, but it's nice to have a veteran on that squad. All right, moving on to.
I think there are a bunch of Galaxy fans who disagree with that. I honestly do think that their fan base seems to be split about this one, and we'll see. Come October, we'll see whether they feel like it was nice to have another 35-year-old midfielder on the squad.
All right, moving on to another big name MLS player, Dax McCarty, who was traded to the Chicago Fire for $400,000 in TAM, which TAM GAM. Oh, was it GAM?
It was GAM. It was general allocation money. It was $200,000 for 2017 and $200,000 for 2018. So
I had my facts wrong on that one. Apologies for that.
No problem.
GAM and all that, it's very, very confusing when it comes to MLS money.
It is, for sure.
He goes to the Fire when the Fire don't have too much going on. Yeah, they made some moves. They have the possibility of Bastian Schweinsteiger coming in. But what does this mean for Chicago to have an MLS-proven player and a captain-worthy midfielder?
Well, I mean, I wrote a bunch about it yesterday or 2 days ago now. I think the fact that they got McCarty and they got Juninho the week before that, and those to me are two best 11 caliber players, that means that Bastian Schweinsteiger is not going to come, which is for the best for Chicago. It also means Andres Guardado is almost certainly not going to come because why would you have three guys like that on the field? They kind of have overlapping skill sets, and I think two of them make sense together, but the third, so what it does for Chicago is it frees them up to use that third DP slot on maybe a true creative midfielder, a number 10. They can go out and get their own, Nicolas Lodero if they have the money to do that, which I think they do. I think that that ownership group is willing to spend. So, I mean, obviously, in terms of building a roster, building a functional lineup for a team that hasn't functioned pretty well at all this decade, getting a guy like McCarty to step in is huge. It's not a coincidence that the Red Bulls just had the best 5-year run in team history, and Dax McCarty was at the center of it. Putting him alongside Juninho, who was at the center of everything that the Galaxy did from 2009 to 2015. I don't think it's the most natural pairing in the world, but it's pretty good. So I'll be like, this is a different Fire team in 2017 than it was in 2016, and this is the move, or one of the moves that I think Fire fans have been waiting for, because Nelson Rodriguez, the GM there, has been accumulating GAM and TAM since he arrived, and now that they've accumulated enough, they've started to add really, really valuable pieces, and they've done so. I don't want to say primarily, but really. Often they've done so by adding guys who already have MLS experience. So you're not going to see the struggle that Steven Gerrard had with travel. You're not going to see the struggle that Didier Drogba had with I don't want to play on turf. And both Juninho and McCarty are under 30 years of age, so they both have some tread left on the tire. I like this a lot. I like that they're going away from. I think the thinking was, we have to sign a big name player to get our guys to get our fan base interested and on board again. I don't think that's the way they're thinking anymore. I think that is a better way to build a team in this day and age. Now, if Herving Lozano is suddenly available and they could sign him, or they could sign, I don't even know who the playmaker is for the Polish national team. I'm sure that they would kick the tires on that. It makes sense in Chicago, but they don't have to do it, and I think that's pretty smart. Oh, and by the way, they're still absolutely loaded with GAM and TAM. They have over 2 million combined. So in terms of roster flexibility, nobody has as much as the Fire.
So moving to the New York perspective, New York just lost their captain. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously they have the pieces to replace him, but more the question is, do you think they'll replace from within, from that talented New York 2 Red Bull side, to kind of promote somebody up to a bench spot and kind of move Kleshin around a little bit, or maybe bring in another guy from Europe or another MLS guy. What do you think the Red Bulls are going to do to replace Dax McCarty?
I don't think they would have traded McCarty if Sean Davis hadn't looked so good filling in for him last summer when Dax got hurt. So I think Sean Davis is a homegrown guy. He's about to turn 24. If you talk to the players on that team, they absolutely love him. So I think that his ability to step in and do it in the prime of his career made this, I don't want to say an easy choice, but it made this a move they felt like they could make. I do not believe that the guy that they bring in, excuse me, because there is obviously a big move coming. I do not believe it'll be a like-for-like thing. It won't be another defensive midfielder. I don't really think it'll be a number 10, even though Sasha has played as a number 8 for Anderlecht back in the day. I actually think it'll be a center forward. And specifically, I think it'll be Terrence Boyd. If you look at the way Red Bull Salzburg play, they play a 4-2-2-2 with 2 true forwards. If you look at the way Red Bull Leipzig play, and they're doing pretty well in the Bundesliga right now, it's a 4-2-2-2 with 2 forwards up there. If you look at what the Red Bulls New York tried to do at the start of last season, it was a 4-2-2-2. They didn't quite have the pieces to make it work. Well, now they have a max salary slot open because they traded Dax. They have couple $100,000 worth of general allocation funds they can use. They have an open DP slot as well. And oh, by the way, Terrence Boyd was on the verge of signing with Huddersfield Town in the English Championship, and that deal just fell apart. And I have an idea as to why. So I think that this presages a shift in formation and a big acquisition for the Red Bulls.
Yeah, it's a good move because McCarty, like you said, is under 30, but he's pushing 30.
Right.
So it's nice to bring a young guy in. We're not bringing a young guy, but have that young guy to fill in and have a good shelf life in MLS and bring New York Red Bulls prosperity their fans expect.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is just part of the growth cycle for the team.
McCarty,
what's that?
Just cycling in and out, old with the new.
I don't think it's going to be that haphazard, but like if you're going to invest in your academy, then eventually you have to make that investment pay off on the field, and they've done good work with that already with guys like Matt Miazga, Alex Mule, and Connor Lade. I think we're about to see the next generation start, and I mean in a lot of ways that'll be MLS 4.0.
Moving on to the U.S. men's national team. We'll get to January camp in a second, but I want to talk about Timothy Howard. My personal favorite U.S. player ever had some interesting comments this week. He was doing an interview, and he said this, and I have a direct quote. Bruce will bring an attitude back to the team while wearing the U.S. shirt will matter again. What do you make of comments towards it has to be a dig at Jurgen Klinsmann. So what do you make of the U.S. Secretary of Defense digging at their old coach?
I'm fine with that. Look, we're a grown-up soccer nation, and Tim Howard is not the only person who has said that the team spirit, the esprit de corps under Klinsmann sort of went away. And look, just look at how they played against Costa Rica, and you could see it was gone. The thing I take issue with is the idea that this comes down to dual nationality, and it's a tough thing to unpack. But there are American-born talented players who played for the national team and didn't seem to give much of a damn about it. And then there are guys who were born in Germany or born in Holland, like Ernie Stewart, who played for the national team and honored the hell out of that badge. I do not think it's fair to put any loss of morale strictly on the dual nationals. Just doesn't seem right to me. At the same time, I don't think that Tim Howard is a stupid person, and I also don't think he's a bigoted person. When guys are only playing for the U.S. national team only because they've been promised a spot at the World Cup, it's the wrong way to build a locker room. And I think it eventually came back to kind of kill Jurgen's time with the team. Whether those guys are ever come good as significant parts of the U.S., I have my doubts. But I am really hesitant about something that makes it seem like the Jermaine Joneses or the Terrence Boyds or the John Brookses of the world care less about the U.S., less about the national team than someone who was born stateside. It just doesn't track for me, and I wish that if Howard felt like it needed to be addressed, I wish that he had maybe thought it through a little bit more and properly contextualized it.
Oh, we don't really have to have any doubt of whether Jermaine Jones cares about the U.S.
Correct.
All right, so moving to the actual camp, which Tim Howard is, by the way, not in. It's more for younger players and.
Plus he's hurt. Don't forget. If he was healthy, he would 100% be there.
Good point. I was going to read off the roster, but it's kind of lengthy, so I'll just put it in the show description. So, who are the main guys you're looking at from this January camp?
Are you hearing my cats fighting in the background, by the way? Sorry for that. I don't know that I'm looking at one dude or another in particular. I'm looking more at how Bruce aligns the team.
Wow.
Yeah, she's very dramatic. I'm looking at how Bruce aligns the team and the roster itself comes together, specifically through central midfield. The other thing I'm looking at is central defense. Geoff Cameron has missed the last 3-4 months. I just had to see a specialist about his knee. He hasn't healed the way he should. There is a decent chance he's not going to be able to play in March, and that worries me because I still think he is the best central defender on the roster, and we saw that when he and Brooks are locked in, as they were this summer at Copa America, they can be very, very, very good. So it's, honestly, the most interesting person at the camp for me is Bruce Arena. He's got it all back on his plate, and he's got to figure it out real quick.
Do you look at guys like Bill Hamid or, of course, DaMarcus Beasley's back, or Keegan Rosenberry and Benny Fellhaber? Do you look at those guys and just thank the Lord they're back in the camp?
I'm
not
happy.
So much Rosenberry, but
right.
Fellhaber, Hamid,
yeah.
Beasley.
Yeah, I'm happy. Like I'm happy Beasley's there because I know that when he goes down to Panama, if he's on that team, he won't crap his pants. He'll have some, he won't be overawed by the situation in the way that Timmy Chandler was by playing in Costa Rica. It's less. I don't know. I'm just happy that I have a manager who that the U.S. has a manager who I'm confident will take the parts and build it into a coherent whole. I don't even think it has to be more than the sum of its parts. I think the coherent whole in terms of the amount of talent in the U.S. soccer player pool right now is more than enough to get us through qualifying. And if it's not, 2018 is going to be pretty tough year to live through.
All right. Do you mind if I kind of throw a curveball at you here?
Please go ahead.
What's your ideal starting 11 from the camp?
I
could name the roster.
Yeah, let me think about it. Right, Josie's there and Josie's up top. Who are the other forwards? All right. So Josie and Morris up top. I want to see like a 4-4-2, but kind of like the Y midfield that the Galaxy played under Arena in 2014. It's kind of like a 4-1-3-2. So I'd like to see Josie and Morris up top. I want to see Kleshton is the more advanced midfielder with Bradley behind him as a true D mid. Though I'd happily see Failhaber. I wouldn't mind seeing Dax McCarty get some time, obviously, as a D mid as well. I want to see Darlington Nagbe on the right side, pinching in to help in possession. Who are my left wingers? I guess Chris Pontius. All right, so if I have Nagbe on one side, I don't want symmetry on the other side. I want balance, which is different, right? So I want Nagbe's sort of lack of forward thrust to be balanced by a left winger who can penetrate the back line, get into space, and be goal dangerous. And to me, that's Chris Pontius. If Kekuta Mana was eligible to play, I would want to see Kekuta Mana, but he's going through an appeals process with FIFA. So I want to see Nagbe on the right, Pontius on the left. Back line, I mean, I don't care who's at left back. We know what Beasley can do, so if he gets a half, I'm fine. What is it? Kemp and Garza are the other options. I'm fine seeing a little of them as well. Omar Gonzalez and I think Matt Hedges at central defense. Well, Omar's not there, so we'll make it Birnbaum and Hedges in central defense. I want Hedges out there because he's a communicator. He's a guy who is very vocal and very organized, and I think we could use that. And then at right back, I think Rosenberry is the guy for me. I definitely want to see a bunch of him in these upcoming games. At goal, I mean, with Hamid out, because he's injured now for the next 6 weeks, I don't care all that much. I thought, David Bingham's looked good. If we need to see another couple games from Nick Rimando, we can do that. Maybe Brad Guzan signs with Atlanta in the next 5 days, and we see him. But I'm not too concerned about goalkeeper depth, even with Howard and Hamid injured.
Yeah, I would like to see Bingham, Brian Rowe from the Galaxy. Wouldn't mind him. I wouldn't be surprised with
I wouldn't love to see Brian Rowe on the field for the U.S. national team. We're going to have to agree to disagree on that one.
I mean, if you throw him out there against Serbia,
Serbia's pretty good, man.
We're going to get their B team.
Mm.
All right, so is there anything else from the camp that you've been hearing or you may have saw or anything?
No. It just started the last couple of days. I guess if you could put a gun to my head, the one thing I want to see is Leggett playing central midfield rather than on the wing. But given the makeup of that roster, I think he's more likely to play on the wing. I would have liked to have seen Kellyn Rowe there, but Bruce is going to make his decisions as he's always done and as every coach is entitled to. At this point, I'm going to give him the same old wait and see treatment that Jurgen got, and that Bob got beforehand. And just, as a U.S. fan, first and foremost, just keep my fingers crossed that it all works out.
All right. We still got a couple more minutes, and just throw a little fun ones in here. What do you think about the MLS game ball?
About the what?
The MLS game ball.
I don't think about stuff like that. It's all fine. It's all the same to me. Yeah.
I personally think last year's better, but like you said, it really doesn't matter. Okay. The Chargers moving into StubHub Arena, is that going to have a big effect on the ground and the playing surface for the Galaxy?
I mean, it'll have some effect. We saw, what happened in Toronto this past year, and Giovinco even mentioned the quality of the pitch after MLS Cup. That's because of the Argos. I don't think it's great, but it's going to make LA a lot of money. And if they use that money to go out and buy Jonathan Dos Santos, and maybe expand the stadium, and then they use more money to go out by Chicharito, I doubt the fans will complain too much. The one thing with me is I don't want to see those football lines during MLS games, and I assume they have a very strong plan to make sure that doesn't happen. But it's interesting after all these years of MLS teams kind of being the secondary tenants in NFL stadiums to see first in Toronto and now in LA, it's the MLS teams playing host and the football teams playing second fiddle.
MLS takeover.
Yeah, right?
Yeah. All right. Well, that's pretty much all I got for you. I really appreciate you being on here.
My pleasure, my friend. Good luck with everything.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Right. Take care.
And as we say in America, don't score on goals.